This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Coming up this hour, Government Internal Agency Audit Agency identifies a scheme that is being used to siphon millions from public payroll, involving a dubious scheme manned by internal and external factors.
Made themselves car contractors. They give out car documents for people to use to access car maintenance allowance. Once they get their names on the payroll, they send a document back, and that is it. We are going after all such people. Please, if the vehicle does not belong to you, make sure you don't bring it for car maintenance allowance.
We'll engage the public with a Fair Wages Commission, which assures that dubious names will be taken out of the payroll. Now, also in this bulletin, Upper East Regional Immigration Service on high alert following the shooting of 3 of its officers, resulting in the death of one as they embark on a manhunt for the gunmen who committed the dastardly act.
Mandated to protect their property, rather see us as enemies. We are on the ground with other sister security personnel, taking intelligence to help us get at those people, certainly.
Also, the trial of former Kokobot CEO Stephen Opuni to start all over again after it commenced 6 years ago.
We have witnessed the failure of the High Court to resolve the Opuni trial the past 6 years. This is simply unacceptable. It's not acceptable for such a case to stay at the court for 6 years, when other more complex cases of murder, secession, and offences brought on the territory of the state are more speedily resolved.
Now, the trial of former Kokobot CEO Stephen Opuni is to start again 6 years after it began. Now, this is the ruling of Justice Kwesi Anojijima, who has been tasked to hear the case following the retirement of Justice Clemens Hon-Nyanuga. Now, the court holds the view that a new trial will be in the interest of justice, since the records of the court are saddled with a lot of allegations. Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, in February this year, expressed his frustration at the fact that the case had taken too long.
I find it highly unreasonable and unfair for so-called high-profile criminal cases involving simple summary offences of fraud, willfully causing financial loss to the state, and money laundering to drag on for years in our courts, while similar cases filed against the perceived ordinary member of society are quickly or rapidly concluded, most of the time within about 6 months to 1 year. We have witnessed the failure of the High Court to resolve the Opuni trial the past 6 years. This is simply unacceptable. It's not acceptable for such a case to stay at the court for 6 years, when other more complex cases of murder, secession, and offences brought on the territory of the state are more speedily resolved. These developments deepen the injustice and inequity in our society. The judiciary clearly has to play its part. They have to play their part. The judges also, yes, in the eradication of corruption. There cannot be a better way of ensuring that corruption does not pay than through the speedy, efficient, and just adjudication of corruption cases, especially the so-called high-profile cases involving politicians and other wealthy businessmen.
So that was Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame in February this year. Well, there's no end in sight. The case will start all over again. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akabley joins us live now via Zoom with details on this matter. Joseph, grateful that you join us here. Where was the case before this whole thing started? I mean, the restart again, or this ruling came into effect?
And so it was at a level where Dr. Opuni was telling his side of the story. In fact, a total of 14 witnesses have testified in the last 6 years. And 7 of them have been prosecution witnesses, persons who have gone into the witness box to tell the courts that they believe the side of the Attorney General's story, that Dr. Opuni indeed did cause some financial loss to the state. These 7 individuals were cross-examined by all 3 lawyers. And so there are 3 legal teams, one representing Dr. Opuni, another representing Saidu Agongo, and again, the Agriculture Company Limited also. Again, 7 witnesses of Dr. Opuni testified, and all 7 witnesses were being cross-examined also by the Attorney General's representatives. And so that is how far the case has gone. At the point where Dr. Opuni is supposed to wrap up with that, then the other defendants will also be called upon to tell their side of the story.
So this was at a point where Justice Hon-Nyanuga retired. What reason did Justice Jima give for his directive?
As far as he's concerned, he says that the records of the court are filled with so much allegation. He again makes the point that it is crucial that a judge hears and sees witnesses testify, and their demeanor helps the judge come to a determination as to the extent to place a truth value on their testimony. And all those are matters that he says the records cannot simply bear out. And so it is only fair and in the interest of justice for the accused persons who under the Constitution are presumed to be innocent until proven guilty, that the trial commences all over again.
This must be some good news for the camp of Dr. Opuni, especially his legal team.
I mean, definitely, in the first place, this is a request that they made for the trial to start afresh, which has been upheld. The second point that we need to make is the fact that they get a new judge, and the new judge is hearing the matter. They had tried more than 10 occasions to get Justice Clemens Onyenuga removed from this particular case. There was one very interesting application that they made. Justice Onyenuga, who happens to be a traditional ruler in the Volta region, the president visited the Volta region, and Justice Onyenuga, in his capacity as a chief, commended the president for the implementation of the free senior high school policy. When he returned to their courts to preside over the trial, they made an application that shows that he's aligned with government's objective and he will not give them fairness because it is the government's attorney general that is prosecuting them. That application was shut down by Justice Onyenuga. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court allowed Justice Onyenuga to stay. There was an instance that the ordinary bench of the Supreme Court actually stopped Justice Onyenuga from continuing to hear the matter because they said the element of bias that was raised and some decision that he had rendered meant that he ought to step away from the case. The AG actually filed for a review of that decision. Then the decision was overturned, resulting in Justice Onyenuga returning. Interestingly, when he retired, the Chief Justice gave him a 6-month extension for him to continue hearing this particular matter. It was at the 5th month that the AG, this time around, for the first time since this whole matter commenced, made an application for a new judge to be made to handle the case because he took the view that it was practically impossible for the case to be concluded within a month. And so, in terms of the side of Dr. Opuni, good news, their request for a fresh start gets granted, and also they get to appear before a new judge who, unlike the previous, did not have reason to raise the issue of bias against.
If the AG also applied for a new judge, then this must also be good news for them, isn't it?
Except that they would have preferred for the trial to continue and not start afresh, as has been what will be happening now. And so we understand that it's a key consideration. Our sources tell us within the AG's department of a possible review of this particular decision being initiated because they hold a view that it is unfair that after 6 years, all those records, the testimonies, all is put aside for a fresh start, which they think that it does not help matters.
All right, Joseph Akabli, grateful for your time. So Joseph is our legal affairs correspondent there. Now moving on to other stories. The Government Internal Audit Agency has identified a cabal siphoning millions of Ghana cedis from the public payroll under a dubious scheme involving internal and external collaborators. The cabal, according to the head of the agency, Dr. Eric Odro-Osai, are behind undeserved claimant on a payroll and other fraudulent activities to take money from the state. Now, today, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission began an ambitious program to clean the roll and ensure that only legitimate employees are on it. Now, Dr. Odro-Osai tells Joy News those behind the scheme will be identified.
The indication is that government contribution to SNIT will be on the increase. In SNIT's own books, they may think that government owes them. But when you do the audit well, you realize the government does not owe them after all, or the amount should be lower. There are also instances where SNIT pensions increases unnecessarily because persons who are supposed to be on retirement they will still be in active service. So you get SNIT paying their pension and central government also paying their salary. There are instances where people have made themselves car contractors. They give out car documents for people to use to access car maintenance allowance. Once they get their names on the payroll, they send the document back, and that is it. We are going after all such people. Please, if the vehicle does not belong to you, make sure you don't bring it for car maintenance allowance. DVLA will be working with DVLA for continual justification of ownership of vehicles to enable you get government car maintenance allowance. These are some of the issues in the system. And I think that if all of us, we work hand in hand to clean up the system, government compensation budget will be, today it will come to the barest minimum, and probably going into the future, there will be no need for us to go to IMF, because we will make a lot of savings on the government compensation budget and free some resources for other development projects.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Dr. Ben Arthur, says the exercise will sanitize the public sector payroll and help identify the lapses and inequalities in the allowances and benefit of the public sector workers.
There's cooperation. Everybody who has read our law and knows what we do definitely knows that we have the mandate. Maybe those who initially said we didn't have the mandate have revised their notes. So possibly the tape you played is an old one. It's an old one, because under Section 3B of our Act mandates us to do so. Of course, even ordinarily, in the natural, you are not able to simply go and say that you have fixed, you have determined benefits, allowances, you've developed salary structures, and therefore we are not interested in how it's being operationalized. So we are able to do that. Mm-hmm. Of course, yesterday the first point of call was with the Internal Audit Agency. We signed an MOU with them for us to collaborate and do this jointly. But of course, it was needful that we also, go through their books to ensure that they are also having a very clean sheet. Other than that, that would be very problematic. Also joining us. Of course, we have also...
And so you can say, Mr. Arthur, that of all the agencies, at least the first agency, which is the Internal Audit Agency, has been cleared of all fraudulent activities. Is that the case?
Definitely. But the detailed findings, we cannot put it in the public domain.
Well, you can't tell me what you found so far, but Mr. Arthur, are you able to tell me what exactly you are looking for then?
In fact, this exercise is a type of exercise that when you come across some anomalies, some of them might be genuine errors that you have to correct. Some of them might be misunderstandings of some of the conditions we are determining how it's even being interpreted. So those ones will even assist management to overcome some of these issues. But in general, we had done this on a pilot basis before even coming this far. We couldn't just wake up and say that we are going to do a nationwide payroll monitoring. We couldn't have done that. So we've done this, bit and pieces, gathered some information. We have a very clear idea as to what we're looking for and what we're going out there to do. Okay. But essentially, it's to ensure equity and to ensure that we have a very decent payroll. Those who are working for what they are earning must earn it. And those who are not doing the work but are paid, possibly they might be ghost workers. Why should the one who is working be paid and the one who is also not even supposed to be an employee be paid equally?
Now let's take you to the capital of Rwanda, Kigali, where President Paul Kagame has been talking about retiring and handing over power after 22 years in office. He's been addressing a press conference there with his Kenyan counterpart, William Ruto, where he's been telling the press that a succession plan has actively been discussed. Now, my colleague and head of Joy News Political Desk, Evans Mensah, was there and joins us on Zoom now with some details there. Evans, you've been there. What was the context of this significant pronouncement by President Paul Kagame? Evans, kindly unmute for us so we can follow what you're telling us. All right, so Evans has been at this particular news conference in the Rwandan capital, Kigali, where the Rwandan President Paul Kagame has been talking about retiring and handing over power after 22 years in office. He's been talking about he retiring and even veering into or venturing into journalism as a way of keeping time after the presidency. Evans has been at this particular news conference and he's joining us live from the capital, Kigali, with some update. Evans, if you can hear me now, I'm trying to find out from you in which context or what's the context of this significant pronouncement that after so many years in office, Paul Kagame is thinking about retiring and handing over power. Okay, so he's been speaking about the fact that, well, some succession plan has been considered, and this whole idea of he retiring has been explored since 2010. Listen to him.
On the transition part for the person in the president of Rwanda is, again, another issue. I fully understand what you are talking about. It's an issue that has to be addressed sooner or later. I had the opportunity to discuss it with my members of the party, that it is an inevitability that we have to find, first of all, grow leaders, and not for me to decide who is going to be the next leader after me. I think that also is not necessarily correct, but to create an environment, circumstances that will give rise to people who can lead, irrespective of whether I like them or not. Because I think you brought it up referring to democracy. You're talking about governance. You're talking about good governance. In good governance, I don't think you want everyone exiting to be the one to decide who comes after them. So let's put that aside.
Now, he's also been discussing all of this at a news conference that had the president of Kenya, William Ruto, in attendance. But Paul Kagame has been talking about how they want to then cede power to whoever is supposed to come. He's been talking a lot about, leaving office after 22 years. Listen to him now.
But the situation is being looked at, has been looked at, in fact, since 2010. We had this discussion within our party, within our country. The circumstances also in Rwanda and the history and the challenges tend to dictate certain things that may not be very common with other situations. It's not the first time it has come up. Maybe it's not even going to be the last time. But life has to go on. And so we have to live our lives and deal with these challenges. So I'm sure one day may join journalism in my old age. So, and then we can talk about that past that involved me. I'm looking forward to that.
I heard you talk about why don't you look for a successor? I want to tell you that from our own experience in Kenya, trying to get a successor can be a very disastrous project. Because it may not be the person the people want. So I think that's an area that requires much more than identifying somebody and telling the population this is the person. What President Kagame has done from where I sit is commendable. I think he has provided sufficient mentorship to enough people to be able to step forward and in a democratic manner do what they have to do as a nation. I am very confident that he has provided lessons to many other leaders, and it is up to those leaders to do what they have to do.
So Evans is now, the line to Evans is now clear. Evans, so you've been at this particular conference. We've tried to play all the cues, but what have you been picking from this news conference that had him, that's Paul Kagame, and William Ruto in attendance? All right, we apologize for that. We're still not getting access to him. So let's move on and do other stories here. Now let's take you to the NDC, because the battle line for National Democratic Congress in the Upper West region is now drawn following the successful vetting of 30 aspirants that filed to contest for 11 constituencies in the region. Joins us Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam takes a closer look at the Wa West and Wa East constituencies.
The voice of the people is the voice of God. Are we winning? Yes! Are we winning? Yes! So we are winning.
Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpo is surely the man to beat in the Wa Central constituency primary after consecutively winning on 5 previous occasions. He's been on the saddle for almost 20 years and wants another bite of the pie.
I'm in the 5th term, and I'm appealing to them that we have not achieved the project maximum yet. And so we are now willing to go to the extra length, as I said, not only to build schools for them as we have done, not only to extend electricity to the rural areas as we have done, not only to build the clinics as we have done, not only to do the many things we did for the people, create water for them, avenues for water for them, but now to build the people.
Breathing closer to his neck and on top of the ballot paper for the primary is former Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drugs Authority, Alhaji Hudu Mokhtari. He has contested Dr. Pelpo on 2 previous occasions but lost. He hoped to be 3rd time lucky.
I'm bringing a new type of leadership. A leadership that is called servant leadership. I've gone around the constituency. I've spoken to a lot of the delegates who are the ones who've been urging me to come. And what they are saying is that they are losing hope in the party, in the constituency, and they believe strongly that it is the type of leadership they are getting. And so I am coming with that type of leadership that will help bring hope to the people of Wa Central constituency.
Dr. Rashid Pelpo's reign as a legislator for the Wa Central constituency has witnessed ups and downs culminating in deep-seated rift, divisions, rancor, internal bickering, and voter apathy in the party.
I think the facts belie what he claims. It is there. You can check in the on the website of the Electoral Commission. You would see the percentage that NDC used to win in this constituency, and in the last 4 elections it has gone down drastically. The last election, 2020, there was a bit of an upsurge, probably because of what was happening in the MPP and the other candidates. But generally, the trend has been that of a decline.
Dr. Pelpo, however, disagreed.
Even in opposition, we got a very one of the best elections we've ever had. If you look at the trajectory from 2024 up to now, you will see, apart from one particular term where we had a challenge in NDC itself, we had continuous increase in votes, commitment, and drive.
Describing himself as the longest 7-foot soldier among the lot, lawyer Wahidu Bamburu says his 30-year stint in politics will give him the opportunity to lead a party.
The longest 7-foot soldier among the lot, and everybody knows that I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of passion for my constituency, and I know how to change things, move it from where we have been in the last 30 years to what it should be in the next how many years, we don't know.
Lawyer Abubakar Botiu Rahman, nicknamed the grassroots man, comes into the race with a 31-year-old record of service to the party right from the polling station level.
I have been a
product of the grassroots, and I am motivated by my experiences and the fact that my ideology resonates so well with the egalitarian ideology of the NDC, and I'm of the view that given the opportunity, I will reflect the grassroots and representing them in Parliament. I'm also convinced that I am going to give them quality leadership in Parliament.
In the West constituency, Superintendent retired Peter Lenchene Tubu 4 years ago came into the race as the underdog against veteran politician Joseph Wilechure and romped into victory against the latter. Today, he is the upper dog in the race against Farouk Bandana and Nicholas Guang.
So from the Upper West region, let's take you to the Ahafo region, where 5 out of the 6 constituencies have vetted their parliamentary aspirants. Now, the process is to help the NDC put its best foot forward in the 2024 general elections in a region where it has only 2 seats in parliament. Now, but the vetting was not without allegations, as there has been an alleged disqualification over forgery. Precious Semevo has more.
In all, 11 parliamentary aspirants in 5 out of the 6 constituencies in the Ahafo region have gone through the vetting process in Goso to stand on the ticket of the NDC in the upcoming 2024 elections. There were no female aspirants in the near peaceful vetting process so far in a region where the NDC has only 2 parliamentary seats and will be aiming at increasing their numbers. While incumbent Collins Dada of Asutifi South is going unopposed upon Frimpong filed to challenge the incumbent Eric Opoku for the Sunafo South seat. But that appears a tall order as Mr. Frimpong, the former district chief executive for Sunafo South, is alleged to have been disqualified over 25 alleged forged signatures on his nomination form. Niboy is the Sunafo South Constituency Elections Director.
Honorable Opon Frimpong, former DC for Sunafo South. So after he has submitted his forms, then we have to go through. At first, we are having their branch executive forms. So we have to compare the signatures on the branch executive forms as compared to that of his nomination forms. So after the comparison, we saw that he had forged some of people's signatories. Then we petitioned the vetting committee to consider those things. And after the vetting, they made a decision that he had forged people's signatures, and that's against the rules. So they have ruled him out of the game. So totally 25 forged and 13 impersonation of signatories.
Meanwhile, the incumbent MP, Eric Opoku, expressed his confidence in being retained by the delegate, adding that his preoccupation now is creating jobs for the youth in the Sunafo South.
You know, I'm a member of the appointment committee. I have vetted almost all the ministers in this country, and so I'm used to the process. And it was just normal. I must say that I am a human being. I cannot deliver to the admiration of everybody. When it comes to development, I'm able to lobby and get a lot of development projects for my constituents. In fact, the critical issue that confronts my constituency and which I'm praying to fix after the return of NDC into power is job creation. We have contributed towards the education of many young guys in the constituency. What they want now is job. And so my major preoccupation is how I can secure job for the teeming youth who have dedicated themselves towards my cause and the cause of the NDC for all these years. But when it comes to projects, when it comes to development, I think that I have made a huge impact in the constituency.
The party is expected to make a decision soon on turn on off. Precious Semevo, Joy News, Goso.
And it will be an interesting moment when the Joy News really brings you a comprehensive coverage of all of these primaries of the NDC. Wherever it will be happening, will be there. And head of political desk here at Joy News, Evans Mingsa, joins me on Zoom now for us to have an interaction on what you are to expect from the team. Evans, so listening into what is happening to the vetting so far, what do you make of what is happening, and what should we expect of the coverage that the Joy News team will be giving on this particular primaries?
And indeed, we expected this to happen. We expected the vetting of the parliamentary aspirants to be far more acrimonious than we saw with the presidential aspirants, which is because historically, hardly would you see the party disqualify somebody who wants to run as president. The last time I remember this happened within the NDC was when one particular aspirant was labeled as mentally challenged, and the party had to disqualify him in the NDC. But when it comes to the parliamentary aspirants, you get a lot of disqualifications across the country, and that is always fodder for controversy. And today we've seen, for example, in Greater Accra, in Medina, one aspirant has been disqualified. The vetting committee suggested he had been a secretary of another political party, I think the United Front Party. And so they questioned his loyalty and disqualified him. This evening, I was having a conversation with Martina Bugri in Northern Region, where 3 aspirants have been disqualified. And he tells me that because of the disqualification of these 3 aspirants, there's tension building. In fact, he says there was a threat by their supporters to burn down party offices there. That is what the party will have to grapple with going forward. And that is why we are preparing to, not preparing, we've actually started, which is what you're covering right now. We've done it on radio as well, and across our many social media platforms. Our team of reporters in every region are sending in a story. The point is, if this is the election headquarters, we don't want our audiences to miss a thing. And what we are telling you is, this primary season, you don't want to miss a thing. And so you want to be with us here on the election headquarters. We are calling it the primary season because this year we are going to have 4 different elections, 4 different primaries. The NDC will have its parliamentary primary and then the presidential primary. For the NDC, they will combine both and do it on the same day. For the MPP, they will actually have 3 primaries. There will be the special delegates conference of a sort, which will whittle down aspirants to about 5, and then you have the presidential primary itself that we have now told will happen in September, and then the parliamentary process will also kick in, where they will elect people separately for orphan constituencies, and then for constituencies where they have sitting MPs. So it is a whole year of primaries. And so this is the primary season, and you don't want to miss a thing, because the election headquarters will have you covered 24/7, 360 degrees.
Just as we're talking about the NDC, we understand that there's uneasy calm in the NDC's primaries at the Sunyani West constituency, following the purported disqualification of 2 candidates in the party's upcoming contest. Now, Evans, hold the line for me. Let's speak to one of the candidates who has been disqualified, and then you come in again because of your understanding of all of these issues. Now, Ernest Ayesu is a mining engineer with Newmont, Ghana, and he was disqualified on Tuesday morning after his vetting on Monday evening, alongside a businesswoman, Evelyn Akantwa. Okay, so Ernest, grateful that you could join us here. Now, we understand that you were reportedly cleared yesterday. Why have you then been deemed as disqualified today?
Right, thank you very much, for having me on your channel. Yes, as you rightly said, but point of correction, I haven't been disqualified as it stands now. I haven't been disqualified. Actually, the Mustafa Fuyo-led committee, the current National General Secretary, cleared me after I faced the committee yesterday. And we were told that we'll be having our balloting Tuesday morning. So it came as a surprise to me that a petition has been raised challenging my membership at the branch level. And during my time at the committee, no such petition came to my attention. Neither was same read to me by the committee. So it comes as a surprise to me that I'm being told that my membership is being challenged. And as it stands now, I haven't been informed officially of my position. But as it stands now, I'm really qualified for to stand primaries 13th May.
Okay, we understand your teaming supporters are agitating over this development. What will you tell them in a way to convince them to hold on for now?
Well, yes. Actually, they were full of they were full of joy when I exited, or when I came out of the vetting committee, out of the vetting, and they lifted me up high up in the sky, and we were all jubilating. So, having heard this news, it comes as a surprise to them. My appeal to them is to remain calm. We are getting in touch with the right people, and appealing to National to have a look into this, because 6 months ago I have just contested the constituency executive elections, so which committee was also led by our current second vice chairman, national chairman, Sherry Aidi. And so it comes as a surprise to me that if I was qualified 6 months ago, why can't I be qualified 6 months on? And I will just again appeal to my followers and supporters to remain calm whilst we try, but I'm still in contention for the primaries.
Okay, NSI, so I'm grateful that you could join us here. Now, Evan, so you listened to him there. His membership at the branch level is being contested. Is it something that probably would likely see more of such as we go through the various constituencies?
Oh, absolutely. We'll definitely see a lot of this. And I can bet you one of the things you see as we approach May, when the parliamentary primaries will be held, is that a lot of the individuals will be disqualified. Some of them will end up in court, and some of them will be successful in securing injunctions that will stop the primaries in some constituencies. It is to be expected. Because if you listen to this aspirant you just spoke to, if he has been cleared before, and then when it gets to balloting, there's an issue, then the party at that constituency level, at the vetting level, at that level at the constituency, has automatically created grounds for it to be challenged. It is how you do it. You clear him. So what? They missed it at that place when they vetted him and cleared him. If you're taking his word for it, and then only when it's about to be balloted, then all of a sudden, so that clearly raises questions, and we're going to be seeing a lot of this going forward.
Okay. Now, you are in Rwanda, Kigali, where you've been listening to the president, Paul Kagame, now talk about retiring and handing over power after so many years in power. We also understand that he recently just wants another 5-year term as chairman of his party. So how does that play out, really?
That is an interesting question, of course. And it was just on Sunday that the party, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, re-elected him, gave him another 5-year term to run as a chairman of the party. And to be fair to Paul Kagame, the evening of Sunday, when he addressed the party supporters and delivered his acceptance speech, he himself brought up the subject of secession, asking who should replace him and the conversations that must happen, leading to somebody stepping into his shoes. He actually said at that point that each time they give him that responsibility, it adds to the task, to the job, and it's a pretty difficult task, and that the conversation must happen. And then today, standing beside William Ruto, the president of Kenya, he actually now gives us a bit of insight into the conversation to replace him as president of Rwanda. And he makes the point that discussions have been ongoing since 2010 to find a successor for him. And that the challenge has been that because of the unique history of Rwanda, and I understand where he's coming from, because after the genocide of 1994 on ethnic lines, and this division between the Tutsis and the Hutus, and the Tutsis are seen as those who were in power and control, although there were just 15% of the population were controlling the 80% of the population in terms of the dominance, and all traces back to historic times. It's pretty tricky to find a successor. You have to be careful, because what you don't want to happen is this man leaves office and then everything unravels, which has been the key question. What happens after Kagame, right? Will this beautiful country, the growing economy, will that all survive the exit of Paul Kagame? And so he makes a point, and that is the reason why that succession has to be more intricate. And he makes the point that he doesn't want to choose a person. He wants the process to be democratic.
All right. Very interesting discussion that we can have on this particular pronouncement by Paul Kagame. Grateful that you could join us here. Keep giving us all the information from Kigali. That's head of political desk here at Joy News, Evans Mensah there. Now, let's still talk about some political issues and move to the NDC. After weeks after the NDC tore into President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's State of the Nation address, describing it as one filled with falsehood and not reflecting the realities facing the Ghanaian people. The MPP has responded at a news conference. National chairman of the MPP, Stephen Ayesu Intim, has been accusing his colleague from the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, of embarking on a deliberate campaign of propaganda and refusing to acknowledge the effect of COVID-19 on the country's economy. Listen.
Ghana's economy was a toast of the world until COVID-19. Before 2020, Ghana was hailed among the fastest growing economies in the world. But COVID-19 disrupted the growth momentum of the economy, and later the Russian-Ukraine war also came on board. As a result of these factors, our economy, which was among the fastest growing economies in the world, started to accelerate in 2020, and the government has committed everything in its toolkit to regenerate it. Ladies and gentlemen, the ravaging impact of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war on the global economy are visible all around us. But somehow, the NDC has refused to acknowledge nor admit this fact, to continue misinforming Ghanaians that this government has mismanaged our economy. So, the NDC's press conference was merely a repetition of their denial of the impact of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war on the economy. The NDC hopes that by consistently propagating this blatant misinformation, it will get enough Ghanaians to come to believe it. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I'm concerned about this deliberate misinformation campaign by the NDC to deny the impact of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war on Ghana's economy. And many others are concerned about increasing taxes. These real bread and butter issues made it difficult for anyone to believe it is not the government's fault that we are going through these hard times. This is the opportunity the NDC seeks to exploit, to weaponize the hardships caused by these external factors to make the government more unpopular.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. I will take a quick break. We'll return with Showbiz. Stay with us. All right, so welcome back from the break. Time for us to bring you Showbiz. Becky Bex is here. Hi,
Grace,
Becky.
I know this is unusual, but I want to find out from you, what's your favorite life quote or about something?
Life is what you make it.
Life is what you make it. Very simple.
Yeah.
Well, I will share mine tomorrow, hopefully, but let's get straight.
Why do you like doing that?
Let's get straight
No, you have to share yours.
into our stories.
You have to share yours.
Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So we wake up every single day. We keep doing the same things over and over again because that's exactly what you have to do. Do it so that, at the end of the day, you progress.
Okay.
We just keep hoping. But let's talk about Funny Face. He has progressed, in life.
Okay.
He had a situation with depression and he's been all over the place. Now he has come out to have a conversation about it, and also he's telling us all about it and why he was actually depressed.
Didn't take me through depression.
You just mentioned.
You are trying to mention, but you are just this. So I've mentioned it for you. What I'm trying to say is that it didn't take me to depression.
What took you to depression?
The love of my children took me to depression. What I say, I was so crazy about my daughters to the extent that when they were crawling, when they fall and cry, I cry too.
Oh.
Naturally, I'm emotional. You know your kids, like, I love people's kids. I love people's kids deeply. So much more my own. And they were.
I've been to your house where.
And they were twins too.
In your house, I remember what very early in the morning at about 6 or 7 a.m. and these children come standing in front of your house.
Yes.
Wanting to enter. I remember.
I call them Council of Elders.
I have a visitor. Wait for. Yeah, you guys go and come back. They say no. They wait.
No. They'll wait. They'll come to the house. They'll come and play with me. So when I got Ella and Bella, it was, and that's the mistake I would tell people not to do. Never put your trust in humans or a subject or anything. Make God your focus. Make God the center of your attraction. When you put your trust in humans, when that thing is no more there, or when the human disappoints you, it will be difficult for you to bounce back.
So in this case, who did you put your trust in? You mean your children?
My children.
So you don't want to put your trust in the children again?
Oh, Tobasi, Andy, take it easy before you give me trouble. What I'm saying is that my trust is in them, but it's not like first. Yeah. As in like my emotions now, I'm emotionally intelligent. I control my emotions about them. First, I couldn't control it. My emotions were all over the place. When they are jumping, unless I don't see them to laugh. When they start laughing, I will start fooling more. At the age of when they were 4 months, like when they hear my voice, they laugh because they know you have a baby, Jimmy. That kind of thing, you know. So when they were no more with me, I couldn't take it. I lost it.
Wow.
I said, no.
We're grateful that he's back on the road and
Daddy
we're
love.
thankful for his life. Let's talk about the rumors that have been making rounds in the U.S. about Tyler Perry possibly getting to buy the BET network. He's confirmed to ET Entertainment tonight. Tyler Perry right there. Brace, I don't know whether you've seen...
You didn't add that we love him.
Yeah, everybody loves Tyler. I don't know.
We love him especially. We know why. But we share that later.
Tell the people. But this is my favorite part because I get to share some of the movies that are about to come up. And Extraction.
It will.
That you should look forward to come June, and we'll come and talk about it all over again. You have something to tell me?
All right. Thank you so much, Becky Bex, for that. Yeah. And that's how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news for you on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. I did this with Becky Bex.
Let me mention my name.
Okay.
Well, he did this with me, Rebecca Dakotrenebois. You can call me Bex.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time. Prime Business is up next with Beverly Broom. Good evening.